Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans and creatures, animals, bugs, welcome to your essential fantasy football players for 2021. These are the players that you must own in your leagues in order to win your fantasy football 2021 league, alright? We're breaking down pretty much all the positions. We're breaking down sleepers, late round picks, early picks, everybody that you need. Pretty much the basis of this video is I'm looking at their average ADP across all the fantasy football websites, and I'm determining whether or not it's way too low. Because if it's too low, you must draft them now. But without further ado, let's just get into it, alright? The first player on the list is Ja'Marr Chase, LSU wide receiver, drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know there's plenty of risk involved when you're dealing with rookies on fantasy football, but if you have big balls like I do, you're taking this guy in your draft. First of all, this guy was the best receiver on LSU's team with Justin Jefferson. Let that sink in your mind. He was also way better than T. Higgins, alright? Everybody knew Ja'Marr Chase was better than T. Higgins. Everybody talks about his connection with Burrow, but I don't really see a lot of people talking about how special this player actually is. To sit out a year and still go number 5 overall when your O-line can't block anything, it's pretty remarkable. At the moment, he is the number 24 wide receiver being taken in your NFL fantasy football drafts. What are you doing? Why is this the 24th receiver off the board? You should stop playing fantasy football if he is the 24th receiver off the board. Listen, we got guys like Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, the Tyler Lockett ahead of this guy. This is a mistake. I hate how I'm talking about T. Higgins so much when I'm talking about Ja'Marr Chase, but T. Higgins put up some amazing stats last year with and without Joe Burrow. So imagine the impact of a way better receiver with T. Higgins and Joe Burrow back in the lineup. Ja'Marr Chase should be your wide receiver 2 in all of your fantasy football teams. I am very, very, very high on Ja'Marr Chase this year, and you should be too. And look, AJ Green had 104 targets last year. Guess where the hell AJ Green is? He's gone! He's not in Cincinnati anymore! Look, I think this guy's gonna get targeted more than T. Higgins. He had over 100 targets last year. On top of that, you add AJ Green's leftover targets. I think this guy's gonna have a monster year. I'm very high on Ja'Marr Chase. You guys should be taking him in your fantasy football drafts right now. Now! Moving on, next on our list is Darnell Mooney. Okay, this one pisses me off. Based on ADP, alright? Based on your doing, he is the 51st receiver taken in fantasy football drafts. Let me say that one more time for you guys. 51! Oh my god. I'm not even gonna name names of who's ahead of him, alright? 51 is just ridiculous for this guy. The Bears just traded Anthony Miller to the Texans, and so Darnell Mooney is the clear wide receiver 2. All I gotta say is watch this highlight tape, alright? Look what's happening. The man's is getting open against some of the NFL's best defenses. This guy clearly has the talent. But an interesting observation to make from this video is that there are no actual receptions being made. This guy constantly gets overthrown, underthrown, side thrown, back thrown, thrown. Watch the throne. He had almost 100 targets last year. I'm telling you guys, his targets are going to go through the roof this year. Make sure you pick up Darnell Mooney in your draft. This guy cannot go as the 51st receiver. That just can't happen. Next up on this list is probably somebody you guys have never even heard of, alright? It's Xavier Jones, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. We all know about Cam Akers' injury, alright? He's out for the entire season next year. A lot of people all of a sudden have been very high on Darrell Henderson. I don't know, man. I just can't really pick him with his photo. It just looks like he's had too many cheeseburgers. But there's been some buzz within the LA Rams camp that Xavier Jones could be the guy. Now, this guy is the sleeper of sleepers, alright? He is, matter of fact, he's sleeping at this moment. Now, you can scrap this whole part of this video. If they sign another running back, they might say Todd Gurley, Duke Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. However, the Rams usually like having a 3-down back in the backfield, and I'm telling you guys, Xavier Jones, he could end up cashing in a lot of touchdowns this year. So be on the lookout for him. He can also catch the ball out the backfield. Xavier Jones is a name that you probably haven't heard of yet. But if you have, let me know in the comments down below, and we could share that. I don't know. Now we know Xavier Jones. Yeah. Next up on this list is a tight end. I hate talking about Seahawks players, but I gotta mention Gerald Everett. This guy's a talent, alright? He's just a talent. He's way too talented to be the 21st tight end taken in your fantasy football drafts. I'm just gonna say this right now. I believe Gerald Everett could potentially be a top 12 tight end in fantasy football 2021. Listen, this guy had to do a lot of sharing in LA, okay? He had to share a lot with Tyler Higbee. And a lot of people have been talking about, oh, Russell Wilson hates tight ends. Russell Wilson does not like throwing at tight ends. We saw what happened to Jimmy Graham. You know what I mean? Greg Olsen. But listen, the Seahawks, they need more receiving options other than DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Gerald Everett. He is that guy. Everett signed a $6 million deal with the Seahawks this offseason, and I think a big reason why he did that was because their new offensive coordinator was actually with the Rams last year. And so there's two things to pick up here. Everett knows the system really well, and the offensive coordinator knows Everett really well. And he clearly loves him, because then he wouldn't have signed him. And this guy's all over the field, all right? He'll line up in the slot, he'll block, he'll line up outside, he'll line up freaking on the sidelines, he'll line up anywhere. So if you're looking for a value tight end, somebody who can potentially go crazy this year, go with Gerald Everett in your fantasy football drafts. You're welcome. We got 3 more of these players left in this video, alright? But before we get into these last 3 players, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you guys are new, alright? I'm trying to give you guys these fantasy football cheat sheets, packs, glitches, everything above. So if you guys could subscribe to the channel, that'd be awesome, alright? Thank you guys. But let's move on, alright? Next up, we have Antonio Brown. We all know how good Antonio Brown is, alright? He was literally one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best, 2-3 years ago. He's currently the 45th receiver being taken in fantasy football drafts. That's just wrong. Let's do some quick maths here, alright? Because I'm Asian. Let's say you're in a 12-man league. Let's say each team takes 3 receivers off the board. That is 36 receivers gone. Which means that Antonio Brown is still on the board when every team has picked 3 wide receivers. How is that possible? Listen, I don't know a wide receiver 4 that gets targeted 14 times, 13 times in a game. We know he's talented. We know he's in a high volume offense. We know he is Tom Brady. Obviously, he isn't the player that he once was, but this one to me is just a no-brainer. He should not be the 45th receiver taken in your fantasy football draft. You gotta take him early. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make this bold statement here. After getting a Super Bowl and having a full offseason with the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, I think Antonio Brown could end up getting more targets than Chris Godwin. I said it. So draft Antonio Brown, all right? Draft him now. Tre'Quan Smith is next up on this list. Okay, we all know about Michael Thomas's injury. I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of concerns with this guy. New quarterback. You know, he wasn't really involved in last year's offense. He's looked at as a deep threat, which usually doesn't pan out well in fantasy football unless, you know, you're Tyreek Hill. But it all comes down to this. If you're promoted to the wide receiver 1 on your team, you're getting the bulk of the targets. Teams will actually be more focused on Alvin Kamara than Tre'Quan Smith, all right? That's a no-brainer. So honestly, if I were you, I'm willing to take a shot on him, all right? He's the 72nd receiver being taken off boards right now. I could probably have him up in the 50s, maybe even the 40s. So take a chance on him late in your drafts. You know, maybe if he does well in the first couple of weeks, you can deal him away once Michael Thomas comes back. Get some good value for him. Tre'Quan Smith, definitely somebody you should think about taking in your fantasy football drafts. Last but not least on this list, we have Deshaun Watson, all right? The 16th quarterback being taken in fantasy football drafts. That is a joke. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of concern with this guy, all right? 22 of them? That's ridiculous. But if this guy manages to hop on the football field this year and play an entire season, he's finishing top 5 in fantasy football. I'm sorry. He's just way too talented to be the 16th best quarterback. Most likely, everybody in your league has already taken a quarterback before him, so I don't see why not you wouldn't take a chance with him as your quarterback too. Unless the NFL actually suspends him, you guys should definitely be taking Deshaun Watson. 16th quarterback is just way too low for him. So let me know what you guys think about this list, man. Make sure you guys leave your opinions in the comments down below, and I will reply to all your opinions and tell you that you're wrong, and you should never play fantasy football again. You should never draft. You should just stop watching football. You don't know anything. And yeah, I'm out. That was a horrible outro.